Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We still have a few more people coming into the room, but we'll add them as we get started. Just a second here. Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We still have a few more people coming into the room, but we'll add them as we. Give me just a moment, you guys. I'm just trying to make sure that all of the appropriate platforms, we're streaming on the appropriate platforms here. Give me just a moment. All right, so we're about to go ahead and get started, and we'll hear from Madam President Ladera Lee.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ladera Lee, and I am BLSA President of the Miles Law School chapter. And we also have John Stubbs, who is the Vice President, and we will be your hosts for this virtual lecture series. We will start with a welcome from Latricia Davis.
Welcome to the Miles Law School inaugural virtual guest lecture series. The Miles Law School chapter of Black Law Student Association is elated to have the esteemed Judge Lynn Toler as special guest. Troubled by the scarcity of minority lawyers in an impoverished state with a sizable Black population, bold thinking visionaries that need for a law school that would produce lawyers committed to public service and social justice. It was out of this reality, concern, and desire to change the legal landscape of Alabama that Miles Law School was founded, admitting its first class in August 1974. The law school's motto of striving to balance directly relates to the imbalance, disparity, and disproportionality of Black lawyers and of the undeserved minority populace that existed in this state. Since the first graduates in 1978, the law school's sons and daughters have made tremendous strides in closing the gap. The mission of the Black Law Student Association is to increase the number of culturally responsible Black and minority attorneys who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. In alignment with the organization's mission and vision, the Miles Law School chapter of Black Law Student Association continues to articulate and promote the educational, professional, political, and social needs and goals of Black law students.
Thank you so much, Latricia, for that introduction. We would like to also acknowledge our advisor, Attorney Tiffany Agee, who is on the video with us today, and in the absence of our Dean, Terry Price. And we also have other faculty members who are present on the call as well. And we will give you all an opportunity to speak at the end of the program.
Thank you, Madam President, for acknowledging Professor Attorney Tiffany Agee, our Dean, Terry Price, and any faculty that may be on the call. Now we're moving to the actual introduction of our speaker of the hour. Judge Lynn received her bachelor's degree in English and American literature from Harvard University and her doctorate in law from the University of Pennsylvania School of Law. At 33, she was elected judge of the Cleveland Heights Municipal Court and served there for more than 8 years. While on the bench in Cleveland Heights, Judge Lynn volunteered actively in her community, creating her own programs such as Woman Talk, a project designed to intensively mentor young at-risk girls, and the CHIP program, an intensive probationary program for young male chronic offenders. She also led an initiative to establish early response mental health teams for local municipal courts. Judge Lynn has also served on a number of philanthropic boards, including but not limited to the National Alliance for the Mentally, Board of Trustees, Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, Cahoonagh County Criminal Justice Service Supervisory Board, Board of Trustees, Goodwill Starting Over Program, Cleveland Treatment Center, and the Cleveland Domestic Violence Center. Judge Lynn is still actively engaged in both local and national initiatives to prevent domestic violence through her work as a board member of Bloom 365. She also actively supports the Whole Brother Mission, an organization designed to address the emotional and family well-being of Black men. Judge Lynn began her television career in 2001 when she became the host of the national syndicated television show, Power of Attorney. During that time, she also served as a retired judge, sitting by assignment in multiple jurisdictions throughout Ohio. In addition, she became an adjunct professor at Ursuline College, where she developed and taught courses on civil rights and women in the law. In 2006, Judge Lynn became the host of Divorce Court. In 2007, she expanded her television presence by becoming the host of the primetime television show, Decision House. In 2008 and 2009, Judge Lynn was a bi-monthly contributor on the News and Notes, a weekly news show on a national public radio. In 2009, she became the host and co-executive producer of Wedlock or Deadlock, a new syndicated series based on a segment of Divorce Court. Judge Lynn has appeared as a legal and relationship expert on a variety of shows, including Larry King Live, Dr. Drew, CNN, The Dr. Phil Show, The Steve Harvey Show, CBS Morning Show, The Wendy Williams Show, The Breakfast Club, and many others. Currently, Judge Lynn is a co-host on WeTV's Marriage Bootcamp series. Judge Lynn's pod course, That Conversation, How to Talk to a Person You're in Love With, can be accessed on Himalaya.com. And that's spelled HIMALAYA.com. Judge Lynn is the author of several books. Her first book, My Mother's Rules, A Practical Guide to Becoming an Emotional Genius, was published in 2007 and described by Ebony's Magazine as an awe-inspiring memoir. In 2009, Judge Lynn published her second book, Put It in Writing, co-authored by Deborah Hutchison. Her third book, Making Marriage Work, New Rules for an Old Institution, was published in September of 2012. Her latest book is entitled Dear Sonolia, Letters to the Daughter I Never Had, was published in 2009. A book dedicated to young women, their progress, and personal journey. Judge Lynn has been the recipient of numerous awards. She is, however, most proud of the 2002 Humanitarian of the Year Award given to her by the Cleveland Domestic Violence Center, and in 2009, Voice of Freedom Award she received from the Philadelphia chapter of the Martin Luther King, where she was honored to join the ranks of previous recipients, Vice President Al Gore and Colin Powell. Judge Lynn has been married to Eric Munford, since April of 1989. She has 2 sons and 4 stepsons. Without further delay, I give to you a woman who needs no introduction, the Honorable Judge Lynn Toler.
Hello, how are you? Can you hear me? Good, great. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank Jonathan Stubbs so much for asking me to come and, show up. You're not actually there in the room with you, but to be here with you. And he asked me, what did I want to talk about? And I said, I wanted to talk about power, legal and otherwise. And, I understand that I'm talking to a law school. I understand that I'm talking to lawyers and law students. But I also want to take you through my journey in finding power within the system and outside the system, because I think it's a very important thing to do, is to look for power everywhere and not be blinded to the power that you have by looking at all the power that you don't have. And I think that a lot of folks get stuck on the power that they don't have and don't realize the power that they do have. Now, let me tell you how I figured that out. When I became a judge, you become a judge, you put that robe on. They don't give you any lessons, by the way. They give you the robe, they give you the chair, you sit down and you do your thing. And when I first got that job, I was like, yeah, this ain't bad. I'm 33 years old. I got a baby at home. Didn't nobody respect me at the crib. Everybody's crying, looking for dinner. I go to work. People stand up when I walked into the room. It was like, what did I want? Everybody was listening. I was giving orders, telling the police what to do. And I said, Lord have mercy, Jesus, I have power now. And I thought that for about a year. And within that year, I began to see my frequent flyers, young men and young women who kept coming in and coming out. And no matter what I said or what I did, I wasn't able to resolve their circumstance. I saw women and men come in on domestic violence charges, unable to leave the relationship and unable to get to the relationship to work in a manner that was not detrimental to them. I would come in every day and I would see, he's going to nickel and dime his way into felonies. I could see the issues and the problems. And I thought to myself, often, who raised you? Where was your mama? By the time they got to me, the problems were so entrenched. They were so ingrained. The woman wasn't going to leave, or she didn't have the capacity to leave. And the person didn't have the education because they didn't go to school. So his only options were this, that, or the other. This one guy, I'll never forget it, had 37 suspensions on a license he never had. You with me now? 36. And with each suspension, the state of Ohio charged you like $1 million to get to get it lifted. You know what I mean? It was like 55,000 here, 10,000. That man never was going to get a good driver's license. And without a good driver's license in Ohio, because the public transport, you're not going to get a decent job unless you've got a woman or somebody. So, and I thought to myself, what can I do to or for him that will alter his circumstance? And if you're a judge that is in that position to alter people's circumstances, after a while, you don't feel powerful, because that is not, in fact, what you end up doing. You end up putting a lid on the chaos. You end up, I wanted to change things. Did you hear all of those philanthropic things I did? I never did one of those things before I was judge. I was a judge. I did all of those things once I was a judge because I knew real power was not where I sat, but in what you do on a daily basis with regular folk. That's why I started a club for young girls. I would go there every week and I would take 7 or 8. That's all I could do. Young ladies who were in, sorry, people are binging me. Young people who were in trouble because by the time I saw that young lady, she was 18, had 3 kids, and was stealing hamburger because she couldn't feed them. The opportunity to alter her existence was when she was 12, 13, 14, 15, before she met that dude, before she didn't, before she was molested. I mean, all of those things had happened to her already. So I said, my power is my ability to reach out to my hand as a woman, as a mother, to these young ladies. Which grade's looking like this week? You wouldn't believe. I would sit down and wait for them. And one day I was writing my grocery list, and I was trying to write a grocery because I'm a terrible cook, just terrible. And I was writing a grocery list. And one of them asked me, well, what you doing? I said, I'm writing a grocery list. I'm trying to figure out what meals I'm going to prepare for that week so I could write the grocery list. And she goes, you make dinner for your family every night? And I said, yeah. And we ended up talking about cereal that day because all of those girls were home getting their own cereal in the afternoon because they didn't have that good functioning family. And I finally did a speech once about what real power was. And I returned to the belief that my real power was not that power that I wielded as a judge, but it was the power that I wielded as a mother. I have an opportunity to every day talk to my children and deal with my children and make sure they have all of these things in their life, make sure that they're busy, do all of those things that I wish I could do for all the people that I saw to actually change their circumstances. Now, having gone through that journey about power, I want to go back to the legal power. Y'all in law school, it is extraordinary. I do a lot of research on sentencing. I did back in the day, and the difference in your sentence between those who were represented and unrepresented should flabbergast you. Just flabbergast you. People with language barriers, hugely more time because they simply agree to things because they don't understand and they nod their heads and they say yes. People are afraid to speak up. They know the system, but they know the system. They may know the system, but they know the system through their friends and acquaintances who've already been in the system and messed over by the system. They say, well, this is how it works without understanding that it can work a different way. Yes, Lady Justice is blind, but that chick can smell money. And if you don't have any, you're treated differently. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. And the most beautiful thing I think a young attorney could ever do is be a public defender for a little while. I think that is a great give back. Now, sometimes you just can't afford to do that. After law school, you may owe so much money that doing it. And don't feel like I'm saying you got to do, because I get it. Money is money, and that thing, and law school can be expensive. But what an extraordinary gift to be able to give people is the ability to simply stand within the context of the legal system on not equal footing with the state, because the state got money and guns, but at least in an equal footing in that room where the court, we try to deal with pro se people in a more understanding and forgiving fashion, but to really have a true understanding of the system, you must be a part of that system. You must be a lawyer, and you should have a lawyer with you. And it makes an extraordinary amount of difference when you do. And the fact but that is not the it and end all of the legal power. Some of the most explosive legal power that you can have is sitting on a jury. I recall my husband sat on a jury once, and it was for a young lady who got a I think it was a domestic violence charge. And he was sitting in the jury room, and he was the only Black guy there. And he said everybody in the room started filling in the blanks of what they didn't know with what they believed about Black folk, because the defendant was Black and he was the only Black guy in the room. Well, her boyfriend, probably this. He didn't show up probably for this. Well, you know how? And he was like, everybody, he was like, what? It was like 12 Angry Men. He was like, nah, they didn't prove that though. That's what you think. They didn't prove that. And they came back not guilty because he stood his ground. And I remember I was in an elevator in Los Angeles once, going up in the elevator, and everybody was talking about getting out of jury duty. And I turned around and I said, please, my sister, do not skip jury duty. I said, that is your last best chance to make this legal system honor its proposed job, which is to give equal access to all. And if everybody in there, if you don't take that last best chance to affect someone's legal circumstance, we're all left to the inequities, the inequities of the system as a function of both color and money. So I want you to feel empowered because you're starting to know the law, empowered because you have opportunities outside the law, and empowered to know that even as a judge and a lawyer, the most powerful things I've done have not involved either one of those two things. I got off the bench to help those girls because on the bench I couldn't. And I think that we always have to remember the extraordinary amount of power that we have by taking the power back that we have. You talk about systemic racism, okay? And it's very difficult to explain to people who haven't really experienced it because it can be so amorphous and vague in the circumstance. You go into a hospital, you'll see often Black women coming in there alone without any support. And if you don't have support in a medical situation, you're all messed up because you're sick and you don't have that. Our pain studies have shown they will be less likely to give in pain medicine or adequate amounts of pain medicine because they assume a certain level of criminality or inability or to handle that. That it also, to me, it's a sense of, I don't see them quite as there, but for, that they're a person like me, they're other, and it's easier to dismiss other. And I think that when you vote, when you do jury duty, when you do all of that, you are sticking your toe right in that systemic system and saying, we're not going to simply allow it to remain what it is. We will always be participating members within the system, and it must necessarily adjust to it. Stacey Abrams taught us a lot. Do you understand that? A whole lot. When I was elected judge, I won on election night by 1 vote. After 3 recounts, I end up winning by 6 votes. For 2 years, everybody walked up to me and said, girl, I was that 1 vote. And I said, and to every person I responded, you most certainly were. And I thank you, because nobody, not one of my supporters could have stayed at home and I could have stayed a judge and I could have become a judge. I was 33 years old. The guy that I ran against had been a lawyer in that city for 42 years. And I was 12 years longer than I had been alive, this guy. And he had that kind of thing, but I invigorated the base. And I went out there and everybody, not somebody, everybody, the guy that got me to run in the race told me I wasn't going to win. The whole point was to get my name out there. And my husband, God love him, said, I ain't never got into no race looking to come in second. You better run this sucker to win. You know, we were fighting, Ken. I thought we were going to have to get a divorce, you know, because he's a scrapper. You know, he's out there, and every day I would come home from my law firm. I would get the baby. The baby was like maybe 9-10 months. I'd make lunch for the other 4 boys. I'd get the baby, throw him in the carriage, and go door to door. I wasn't as old as this other guy. I didn't have the tentacles and the community did, but the power that I did have was I was 33, young and really tired, and I really wanted that job. He could not outwork me. And the power lies in those small crevices of who you are and what you do and what you're able to discern and what you're able to figure out and the effort that you make. That's where the power is when you don't have power to as everybody looks at it. The power of politicians, the power of judges. We have extraordinary personal power. And part of it, I'm going to tell you the reason why I accepted this. Mr. Stubbs here told me about the inequities in Alabama. And what he felt was, you know, a need for legal intervention in a state where there are a lot of poor Black folks that struggle. And if you want, he wrote me thoughtfully. And that was all the power he needed to get me to show up here. That's all the power he needed was that. The willingness to do so and to do so well and to give me a reason to show up. And all of you have that power. All of you have that incredible power that you share with me and everybody else. And then you have that next level, next step power of an understanding of a legal system that I believe is called upon far too often in the society in which we live. Everybody, there's an accident. Somebody's got to go to prison, got to go to jail. You know, I remember a prosecutor one time, this young lady had driven a car and it was wet on the road and she swerved and it killed her cousin in the car. And they charged her with vehicular manslaughter. For what? You know, sometimes accidents happen. Sometimes bad things happen. Everybody, well, can I, somebody didn't get, a young lady didn't get chosen for the soccer team because she was on vacation in Hawaii when the soccer team was being picked and her parents sued. Why are we keep coming to the legal system, Ilyara? And I think that justice reform is needed. I think we have fallen into a pattern where we think the whole world works like law and order, like no matter what you do, there's going to be, a case, and you win as long as you get to put somebody in jail for a long time. The legal system should be for that rare outlier, not just everybody's in court all the time. We should be able to resolve and do things legally, have attorneys when we make contracts and do all of that, but not simply rely on the system to balance the books once we've all messed up. And I just think that I'm big on mediation. I'm big on all of that, but I think the legal system shouldn't be the first place that we turn when things go wrong. I think we should be when things are really wrong, and then we go there. And the beauty of being an attorney in a system where everybody's not running to court like that is, I was listening to, did you listen to Styles P the other day on Instagram? Y'all probably know who I didn't, my son does, but he was on Marriage Boot Camp with me. And he was talking about not getting paid for his product. And I think a lot of young people, when he was young and starting out, all of them, whether they could be very, very talented, but they get into a contract or a system they do not understand and don't hold their hand up for a lawyer right out the gate that can put them in a contract that allows them to have the value of their talent as opposed to getting eaten up by others. Go to the law early on the creation side. And we as Black people really need to do that, because you can't trust who you're contracting with. You can't be so excited that somebody's giving you a deal that you believe that they'll give you a good deal, they'll give you a right deal, or that the deal that you get, even though it sounds good to you at the time, because to date you were making $25 an hour and now they're going to give you, you know what I mean? You think it's a good deal, but you don't know. And there is a fear of the legal system. There is a fear of that paper, the fine print, all of that. The fear of looking stupid. You don't want to go in there. Well, I don't understand what this contract is asking for. People don't raise their hand and do. That's the thing you should do. If you don't, I don't understand this. I don't understand that. I don't understand the other thing. And as lawyers, if we are available, if we are accessible, if we are out there, we are able to offer the power of the contract to the people that are making the contract, and the people that normally don't understand or what the system or the particular venue is trying to do. And the most important thing I want to get out of this is, it's going to take us time. I was talking about the medical system. It's going to take us time to. There's no rule or policy you can implement to make Dr. Jones look at me the same way he looks at a white girl. Can't do it. But you have to understand that happens in that context. You have to speak to it in that context. And in the interim, we've got the power to change our diet, to work out, to do all of those things that keep us from having those pre-existing conditions, so we don't have to go to see them in the first place. We have all of that power. And, nobody gives up power voluntarily. It just don't happen. They just don't do it. So as we struggle to gain the political and legal power that we need to have, we should be very jealous of and extraordinarily, demanding of the power that we have to exercise our intellect, emotions, and abilities in a way that puts us in a place where we can get the result we want, even in a system that does not necessarily seek to treat us fairly. Or not that the system doesn't seek to treat us fairly, but a system that is fair in its inception and theoretically, but is implemented by people, and people we know just ain't like that. You know what I mean? Just in general, people who have power tend to keep power, and people do not challenge their unrecognized biases. That's going to be our job, to make them challenge their unrecognized bias, and not giving me the pain medicine, or not coming to me up in a store because you don't think I can buy anything. This ain't got nothing to do with nothing, but I'm just going to tell you a funny story. I was in Saks Fifth Avenue, and I go in there looking like a bum because, it's my life. I do what I want. Went into Saks Fifth Avenue, and I looked at this outfit, and I picked up two things that didn't go together clearly. And I said, "What about this?" And the lady said, "Doesn't go together," and walked off. I was like, ain't this about a bear? Because it's happened before. I went downstairs to the perfume department, because in Saks, they can sell you anything from any department. I went and found the first sister I could find and bought $40,000 worth of clothes just to piss that lady off. And when I was leaving there and I had all these packages, I had 3 sales ladies walking me out. And she said, "I see you had a good day." And I said, "You could have too." Now, she couldn't have, because I never would have bought that much clothes with her. But it was like, she will never acknowledge there was an unconscious bias she had that said, this chick can't pay for this stuff. So, but I don't know how I just love that story. That's why I told it. But I want you to feel powerful for who you are and what you do as an individual, and for your ability to realize that the first fight you have is always with yourself, to show up in a system in a way that requires them to acknowledge you. But you always got to know your stuff. I mean, backwards, forwards, up and down. Don't ever, my father was an attorney. First thing he always told me, don't ever let them catch you on a tech. I don't want to see nothing about no fatal dates that you missed, none of that. Never let them catch you on a tech. And we have to exercise all the power we have over the limited power we do have as we insinuate ourselves into the greater powers that we seek to enjoy. And I understand you guys got some questions for me, so hopefully that made you feel a little bit more upbeat about the power that you have. And I'm open for questions, and thank you so much.
Wow, that was simply amazing, Judge Toler.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. This is the first time I've done a speech over Zoom, so it was a little bit intimidating, but okay.
Phenomenal. You are amazing, and we are so glad that you chose to come and speak with us today. We do have several questions here. The first question, let me say this. There are some questions that were asked that I believe some of the individuals are not present on the call.
Okay.
But they submitted their questions prior to. So with that, we might be able to, we can ask those questions, and it may answer someone else's questions that they may have wanted to ask as well. Sure. Let's see, the first person on the list here is Letitia Fawkes. I'm going to go ahead and ask her to unmute. So Ms. Fawkes, if you would unmute, and if possible, you can turn your camera on. If not, we would ask that you unmute and ask your question to Judge Toler.
Good afternoon, Judge Toler. Thank you for coming out for the law students. My name is Tish Gotel Fawkes. I am the legal director for the ACLU of Alabama, a transplant, but I am discovering some very interesting things about using power and moving. As a Black woman in a role of power, how do you manage microaggressions?
You know, I read that question earlier, and I had to think about it a long time. I don't think I've ever seen a microaggression. I think people have probably microaggressed against me, but let me put it to you this way. In 1963, my sister and I were the only two Black kids in an all-white lower middle class school. And my parents, stuff would happen, and we would go home and tell my parents, and my parents' responses always were, what are your grades like? I'm not sending you there to make friends. Did they hurt you? And I remember being in Towers Court South Pool, and it was a pool they didn't let Black kids in there. And I told my father, and my father realized it was a private pool and there wasn't anything going to do about it. He sent me to the inner city to learn to swim. And I went to the inner city to learn to swim. And I came home one day and said, Mommy, what is a rich pitch mitterfather? And they said, a rich pitch mitterfather. Now work it out. Rich b-m-f. They were calling me and my sister rich bitch MFs because my father was a lawyer. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and she had a nice car and jewelry and all that kind of stuff. And they were meaner to us down in the inner city than the white folks were where we went to school. And so I learned not to take it in. So I may have been, and it was funny, a year ago, I was the first Black woman in both the law firms that I joined in 1984 and in 1990 maybe. And the head of the office, it was like a 300-man law firm, wrote me a letter last year and said he had done a microaggression, something about my hair or something, put his finger, some kind of microaggression. And I was like, Dan, I don't remember you doing it. And if you did, I know you're not that kind of guy and you didn't mean it as anything. So I don't really care. I didn't see it. He thought about it. He said he felt awful. And I said, don't waste your time, because I didn't. And I didn't see it. So I don't see microaggressions towards me. Just don't. Because my parents didn't allow me to do that. So I don't see them. I don't know. I think that's probably a very unpopular answer, but I'm sure people do, but I don't care.
All right. And the next question that we have here is from Regina Burpo, if I'm saying that correctly. I'm going to go ahead and ask that you. I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute Ms. Burpo, and if possible, if you would turn your camera on, and you can ask Judge Lynn Toler your question.
Hello, I'm here. My question, I think she may have pretty much answered it in her talk, but I basically wanted to know, how can people of color learn to use the power of the legal system and their constitutional rights in order to affect change? How can they be the change? And I think you hit on some of those already, but
it's important that they know what the laws are. It's amazing how your average individual, Black, white, or otherwise, is not really aware of what the state can do, what the state cannot do, where your rights are, what are your Fourth Amendment rights, what can you say no to in a car, what yes to. Now, I have told my children that they can't say no in a car at all, because they're Black boys. You say yes, you agree with it, whatever you do, you get your behind home in one piece. And if somebody needs to come for them, that's my gig. That's not your job is to get home. And some people don't like that either, but I don't want to be, putting on my son's headstone. He was right. Don't mean nothing to me. I'm right and I can go do something about it. But I think knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. We really have to understand and don't learn from, the cat down the street, or what, what's happened. A lot of police don't have a good understanding of what the law is. You have to really understand what the law is and know what your rights are, and also be emotionally in control enough to express those rights, but not to allow yourself to get hurt while you're doing it until you're in a position to exercise it without getting hurt. Do you know what I mean? I have six Black sons. I had that conversation a lot, the get home conversation, and let me handle it. You know what I mean? But know your rights, but also be emotionally prepared to be in a situation in which you cannot get out, and understand that that's what's happening, and you always have the right later.
Thank you, Judge Toler. I will ask one of the questions from one of the individuals who's not listed on the call. Monica Blanding asks, I often feel the need for promotion to make a big impact. What are some of the things you do to grow while you're in one season?
I read everything. And there is no subject I don't believe I should be somewhat apprised of. And whatever I'm doing, like I became a judge, not because I thought I'd be great at it. People tell me I shouldn't admit these things, but I don't, hey, I should tell you the truth. I was tired. I had 5 kids. One of them was a baby. I was working full time at a corporate law firm. The courthouse was six blocks from my house, and I could set my own schedule. I made everybody get up early and start at 8 o'clock, because I'm good at 8 o'clock, so I could leave by 3. And so I was exercising power over my own time to do that. But whatever I'm doing, I'm always learning something new and extra. Used to take French when I was a kid. Took a little French in college. And for 2 years, I took French here 2 days a week. And then I was speaking a little French online. I got a speaking engagement in Paris. You chase fun, you chase knowledge, you chase things that may very well not do you can't see will do you any value as it is, but you never know. You never know. You just stack knowledge, and you always be excited about learning something new. And it doesn't have to have a direct line to some money to be of value. You never know when you can pull it out.
Thank you. And the next question we have here is from Deidre Ward. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Ms. Ward. And the same rules apply. If you can turn your camera on, by all means, please do so. If not, definitely ask your question to Judge Toler.
All right. I think everybody can hear me now. Good.
Yes.
First and foremost, this has been such a rich conversation that I've had among peers that look like me, and somebody that can say and speak from a perspective of what I don't see and what I don't know. So thank you for that. And a lot of the questions have been answered, but my particular question originally was focused on what information or what knowledge would you impart to someone that would be interested in pursuing being a judge or running for political office. And my perspective is a little different now from hearing you speak about it, because I realize there's a lot of things I can do right now, or things that I am doing that have more impact. But not only speak to what information would you give to that person, but at what point do you think it's more valid to do that versus choosing another route, so to speak?
I want to say this. The first thing you need to do is watch your social media. If you are going to run for office, I did not have that problem, but I have done some things. All right, but I did them in the 80s. Ain't no records. I got plausible deniability. So clean up your e-life. Don't post about it. Don't fall out with people on Facebook. All of those things they build always have a positive representation. That doesn't mean always be happy and polite, but don't get dragged into things that do not serve you. And all of that stuff lives forever. That's a stupid thing, but it's true. It's very, very true. People are coming up. He tweeted this 10 years ago, cancel him. Just be careful about what you do with that kind of thing. If you want to be a judge, understand your community and how it selects judges, because it's different everywhere. I just had to be a lawyer for 6 years in good standing, and I had to run. Be aware of the political forces where you live. I was a Republican back in the day. I'm not anymore, but in Ohio back in the day, Republican governors had this thing for selecting Black judges. They just did it a lot. The very first, you know what I mean? So the atmosphere where I lived meant that was the route I had to go. Now, they didn't tell me what to do, and it didn't determine how I ruled, but it allowed me to make the most of a particular lane that I was getting into. Don't group think. Understand your community and what it needs and who you get to need to know. And that's one thing I really wish I had done, was been more active in my community. So when I ran, I'd have some kind of base. Didn't. I had to create a base, door to door to door to door. But then again, I accepted that was a weakness of mine. And then I took a strength of mine to squeeze it in that weakness. So just know your community, make sure your background's good, and always your speaking skills. As I am unable to speak, I'm telling you to increase your speaking skills. I had a momentary, but people are bowled over when Black folk come in a room, and can light it up intellectually, just bowled over by it. They're just, you could see people are shocked by it, and you reorder them. Know your stuff, and your ability to speak will. That's how I got elected, was my ability to speak, even though I can't talk today. I hope that was helpful.
That was very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judge Toler, and thank you, Ms. Ward. The next question we have here is from Gloria Stone Osbeck. And Ms. Osbeck, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you and ask that you ask your question.
Hi, Judge Toler.
Hi.
My question for you is, what are some of the struggles you have faced as a Black woman in the process of gaining power over your life?
This is a very unpopular answer. I probably have faced struggles that were based on being a Black woman. I just don't know what they were, because I'm trying to, I just come in so hard. Do you know what I mean? And people may try to do things to me, but I come in so hard with so much.
They don't know what to do.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You just sit them down. So, you know, when you walk in and you're calm and you're cool and you know your stuff and you don't have a need to show that you know, they kind of pick it up as you go along, and just, you don't tell them where you go to school. You don't tell them what you've done. You let them figure it out. Like, and you know, I know that people would, who is this bitch? You know, I just that's how I feel about things. So I decide that you're going to have to deal with me in a certain way. Now, I do know that as a woman in the legal profession, I tended not in the beginning to be taken as seriously as my colleagues. You know, you say something in a meeting, don't nobody hear it. Guy next to you says something, the very same thing, everybody heard it. That happened until I went to trial for the first time. And I'll never forget it. His name was Art Passy. I went to the trial twice, and I knew I had been accepted when this guy named Art was going to take another partner's case to trial. And right before it went, they took it from him and gave it to me to try. And when you take something from, and he was a senior to me, and it was a white fella, and they took it from him for me because they really wanted to win, and they've seen me do it before. That's when I felt like, they know who they, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, you know, leave it alone. So, you know, just come in so hard, you know what I mean? And that doesn't mean loud and aggressive, but just hard with it. And it probably has affected me. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe because I keep fighting and I keep getting past it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was helpful or not.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much. I'm looking over, looking in the chats here. There was a question that someone asked in the chat, Judge Toler, and it was based on based on the lecture that you just gave. It was from Dr. Kathy Edwards, and she actually taught me in undergrad. She said, I have a friend who was fully empowered to write a book. She wrote it, but is afraid to publish it because some of the experiences could be identifiable and could cause problems. What can I tell her to help her go forward with publishing this book and feeling powerful in doing so?
You know what I did when I published my first book, and I was telling lots of stories about other people, and I didn't want them seen. And the first paragraph I put in there, I said, you know, punches became kicks, and and Johnny becomes Bobby. And I smudged enough that the essence of the story was the same, but unless you were actually there and did it, you won't know I was talking about you. So I would ask her to look at what she's writing. Is there a way to convey the essence of it without possibly expose? I mean, I would imagine that she's worried about family members and stuff, because family members can see themselves in that book. If you can make enough alterations so it's just not so dramatically stark, that's one thing. Number two, talk to your family beforehand. Don't just publish it, talk to your family beforehand, get all the problems out of the way in the beginning. So you've already had the fight if you're going to have the fight, or you've already resolved the issue if you're going to resolve the issue, and then go ahead, talk about it first and then go do it. So you feel more comfortable, because it's not what's going to happen when I do it. You've already dealt with what's going to happen when you do it, because you discussed it with all the relevant people beforehand.
Yes, and she followed up Judge Toler and said the book is workplace and not family. If that.
Oh. I would be very fooling around losing your job in 2021 after 2020 happened. You know what I mean? I don't know. I can't speak to it because I haven't seen it. I would have pause as well. I don't think I would know what to say to encourage her and not feel like I might be allowing her to do something that might hurt her.
Yes, ma'am. Let's see here, we're hopping back to the list here. So the next person on the list is, please forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Kazia Hale. And I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you, Kazia, and ask that you ask the judge your question.
Hi, Judge Toler. My name is Asia Hale, and I'm a 1L at Cumberland School of Law. My main question is, do you have any advice about like networking and basically just getting your name out there?
Yeah. First of all, do better than I did in life with the networking part. I was raised in a family where it was like, you get it on your own. You don't ask things for people. That is the dumbest thing my parents ever told me. I think that you should always be fascinated by people. And I think that you deal with people that interest you, and those people have their tentacles and you have your tentacles. And the best networking I've ever done was simply being interested in the same thing as other people, and then circling back to them when they became someone that could help me do something. Do you know what I mean? And don't be afraid to network. I just did this like a couple months ago. Somebody came at me with something kind of weird. I said, but it was interesting. And there's always worth a conversation. You know what I mean? Always worth a conversation to talk about it, and always speak up, always inquire about other people, ask them a whole lot of questions, because people love to talk about themselves, and start networking now, unlike some other people who just didn't do it. And I still struggle to do it. I don't like calling people and asking them for stuff. Get over that, because that's stupid and dumb. And I wish I wasn't like that, but you're young and you're talking about networking, so you're going to be fine. It's just a matter of getting used to it.
Thank you.
Great hair.
Thank you.
I love your hair.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question that we have here is from, let me precursor this by saying, please excuse me if I butcher your name. Is it Maj Patrick Bishop? And I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now.
Understood. Thank you, Brother Tubbs. It's acronym for Major Pat Bishop. That's fine.
I apologize.
First of all, everybody, let me say, those that know me, I'm a minister of the gospel, spent 26 years in the military. I joke a lot more than I'm serious. So from the text, I still say whoever the lady is afraid to come out and say something. Pre-salvation, Pat Bishop, yeah, I bake on one of the Miss Millie pies. I'm so serious. Can't be afraid to jump out there and do what you want to do. Just gonna say that. Second, I'm so proud of my sisters. We have a person in the White House right now as the vice president, and it was past time. So to my sisters, I salute you, and I look forward to seeing a lot from you. And Judge Toler, I appreciate you for taking time out. My question is, again, after serving 26 years in the Army, several deployments all over the globe, several instances of life-engaging actions, I sit for the bar in 2 weeks. With everything that's going on around you, your family, your job, my church, my children, with law enforcement, what advice you have on staying focused, especially when we as a people are our own worst enemy. When I say we as a people, our own worst enemy. There are those that are around me that see me trying to get somewhere. I got to throw rocks under me while I'm trying to stay focused. How do you do that? And I think I have to thank my wife, and she's standing here. She says hi. She's been doing a very good. She ran back in the bedroom. She's been doing a very good job at keeping some of these people away from me, to include family, because y'all know some of y'all worst enemies can be your family. She's been a great buffer for that, which is why I will never be on your show. So I thank her for that as well.
I make lists and I stay focused on my lists. If I got something I have got to do, and I always do on my list is things that I must do on a daily basis, things I ought to do to make a leap to something else, the things I want to do simply to keep my life joyful. And I make sure all of those categories make the list every day. So I'm able to focus. Okay, I'm focusing on this one now. Okay, I'm focusing on that one now. And that's it. That's what I do. Like if I were you, be not talking, doing nothing, just doing evidence. Just, I love you. Later. Trying to do this. Later. And you train the people that know you, say, oh, well, he's on it. He's on his track. Don't mess with him. And they learn not to take it personally because that's what you're doing right now. And so you tell everybody to shut it down because you are about to cross the bridge and you need your focus while you're walking across that bridge.
Amen. Thank you. Acknowledge.
Thank you. Taken. Good luck to you.
Thank you. You can take it for me still if you want to.
It's been a while.
Thank you. The next question we have here is from Tiara Hudson. And I'm going to go ahead and unmute you now and ask that you ask your question, Ms. Hudson.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge, for being with us today. My question is, as a Black woman, you've talked a lot about power today and made it very clear to us that we already have a lot of power. But my question is, how do you wield that power without becoming across as an angry Black woman? Like, when do you pick your battles that you don't care that you're the angry Black woman versus I might need to chill on this one?
Mm-hmm. My mother never raised her voice. And she told me people who raise their voices are demonstrating their lack of power because that's fear and frustration because they don't have control. So what I do is I fight my fights, but I'm not loud, I'm not aggressive. I come in slow, I come in low. Now I come in passionately when I need to, but I don't, asserting your position and being aggressive are two very, very different things. Tell you a story. My sister was in the hospital. situation wasn't good. Doctor wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. I had a mask on. They didn't know who I was, nobody, and the doctor comes in and I'm mad. She's not being treated right. And I said to him, he looked at me and I said, I need to talk to you. And he says, what is it? And I said, hang on a minute, I'm upset. Give me a second. I walked out of the room and I came back. Now that let him know I'm a serious person. I'm upset. And I don't, because if I come across as upset and angry as I was, he's going to disregard me as a crazy person. And then what I did was I said, I understand. Is this outcome a known complication of the surgery that you did? Now, you know what that did to that man? That's the language that you use when you sue somebody, known complication. And oh shit, wait a minute. And so he said, yeah, because that gives him an out, known complication. Yes, it was a known complication. I said, so if it was a known complication, how come you don't have a neck brace that will fit her? I mean, we're 5 days post-op here. And he started leaning back and they're like, I don't know who she is. I don't know what she does, but she's talking all that lingo that they do when they sue me. She knows something. She has something. She does something. She's got power I know nothing of. And I ain't going to upset her. The next morning, there were 5 doctors in my room. We had a meeting about you last night. I won that fight with that guy when I walked out of that room and didn't come across as angry and had my cool together enough to stab him right in his insurance policy. Power. First fight you have is always with yourself. You scare somebody when they think you know something that they don't, and you got power they don't have. And when you cool, but strong and know your stuff, that's how I do it. I'm done.
Thank you so much. Let's see here. I believe the next person was Andrea Alexander. I believe her connection may have dropped because I saw her on here earlier, but I will go ahead and ask her question. Her question is, what has been your biggest challenge as a woman in the legal field?
I think it's that not getting heard in meeting things that I talked about. You have to learn to, that was the biggest challenge. And I was a little timid in the beginning, and I had to be more willing to say it again. So my biggest one was that natural reticence that I had as a woman to, I want to make sure everybody's happy. I want to make sure everybody's pleased. I want to smile at everybody and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to upset the apple cart, but sometimes your job as a lawyer is solely to upset the apple cart.
Thank you. And the next person that is on, the next question rather, is from Sanquinetta Doty, which is one of our Miles Law students. I'm going to go ahead and ask her to unmute. Give me just one moment here.
Hello, how are you today? So you did kind of touch on it just a little bit when you spoke about your baby and taking them with you when you were campaigning. But my question is to you, what advice would you have for a non-traditional student that is trying to balance family, work, and law school?
Number one, please stop feeling guilty. Guilt just beat me up all the time. You know what I mean? And I would call my mother and talk about, oh, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. And, sometimes I would, by the time the election was over, the baby would scream every time he saw the carriage because he didn't want to go back out because he was just sick of it. And, young brother had to suck it up. And I don't want you to feel guilty because it's not, And we're very judgmental, like us ladies are, about everything that we do. You know, I remember once my kid said, "Mom, it's just milk. You know, we'll survive. We don't have milk." So, you know, and you have to train those around you to step up and step in when mommy's got to step out. You know, you got to train them. You got to they can't be afraid of the kitchen. I mean, I don't know how old they are, all that kind of stuff, but you can train folk, and don't feel guilty. It's
right.
easy. The lack of perfection when you're a mother is like, oh my God, been there, but don't feel guilty.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Ms. Jody. The next question is from Gloria Sellers. She is not on the call, but her question reads, as a former lawyer, how did you deal with imposter syndrome?
Oh, it was terrible. Yeah, no, I understand exactly what they're talking about. Yeah. When will they figure out I got no business being here? When they figure out I don't know enough? When will, I still deal with that a little bit. And, fake it till you make it. And watch everybody. My mother used to get me to do this, just to watch people. Everybody is just scared. Everybody isn't smarter than you. They put their best foot forward, but if you really pay attention, you see that you're just as good as everybody else, and you assume that walking in, and lean into that fact that you don't feel. I never felt quite ready to do anything I ever did. And if you wait until you're ready, you're probably waiting past your prime. Sometimes you just got to gather up what you got and make a run for it.
Thank you, Judge Toler. We have, the next question we have here is from Shamira Smith. I'm going to go ahead and ask that you unmute Ms. Smith and ask the judge a question.
How y'all doing today? My question, and you kind of answered it, but just to reiterate and ask it again, what were some challenges you faced in law school as an African-American woman, and what advice do you have to give to us today?
I can't lie. I never went to class in law school. My properties professor actually looked up, it was me and Ron Turner, because you're in alphabetical order. And he goes, "What is this? Is this a joke?" They thought they just made up two names and put them up there, because we never went to class. Do not do what I did. Go to class. I didn't go to class in college either. And so I don't know what law school did to me, because I wasn't there to receive it. I ain't gonna lie. That's what happened. Oh, terrible. Terrible. I just read the books and got the syllabus and went to get the day where they went over what was going to be on the exam. I would show up that day. I would show up the day where they handed out the syllabus and the books, get a feel for who he or she was, come that last day. And in the meantime, I just didn't think it was necessary. So I didn't do it.
Thank you, Judge Toler. The next question is my question for you. As a minority, do you believe that more oftentimes than not, we hold legitimate power in the business and legal world?
I think we do. I was raised in a community where all the fathers were lawyers and doctors and all that kind of stuff. And I think that that Black middle class doesn't get enough press. My father was born in 1919, him and all of his buddies, they all went to World War II. They all did the GI Bill. They all, you know what I mean? It was we have a very legitimate and strong Black middle class that has some extraordinary people in it. We don't get enough press, but I think, and you know, we tend to honor those people who, Black folks who make good money as athletes and all of that kind of stuff. But we have a very strong and meaningful Black middle class that doesn't get enough, just doesn't get enough press. And I think we do have real power. I really, really do. I mean, you can see all of those people when the doors started to swing open in 2020, about all of the Black women, especially, that have ascended to positions of power, and they didn't just pick them off the street. Those people were ready. They were ready. They were there. And I just had a girlfriend got promoted as vice president at Stars for new development. You know, it's just, we're all over. We just don't get a lot of press.
Thank you. The next question we have here is from Madam President Ladera Lee. Let me go ahead and unmute you, Miss Lee.
Okay, I did have one question for you. Is there one case during your career that has affected you the most? That one case that you will never forget?
That one case that I will never forget.
Mm-hmm.
It was the young lady who got her boyfriend to kill her mother. And she was extraordinarily manipulative. And I remember she was pregnant when I set bail for her, and I did the preliminary hearing. And I set bail for him, and she was there. He was charged with killing her. And she came and she started talking. I could tell she had talked him into it, because the way she talked to me, she felt like she can manage people. And she was talking about her pregnancy. And I said, well, you're pregnant? And she was young. And she said, yeah. And I said, well, you're awfully young to be pregnant. And she said, yeah, I know. And I don't know. We were just chit-chatting. And the next time she came for the preliminary hearing, she says, I want you to know that I got the abortion like you told me to. And I said, nobody told you to get an abortion. What you trying to do? But she was doing it anyway, but she was one of them people. And it gave me a window into a certain kind of person that I've seen a lot, that manipulative person. And it allowed me to sit back and look at people a little differently. That there are some people that are very extraordinarily, narcissism before everybody started talking about it. That stuck with me. Never got past it. I mean, not that I didn't get past it, but it still lives with me today. How she went from there to there, and that's how she lived her life. Woo! Chilling.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. And the last question, certainly last but not least, we have Latricia Davis. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Ms. Davis. She also happens to be one of our students here at Miles Law School.
Hello, and thank you again, Judge Toler, for being with us on today. My question is, after practicing in the legal field for some time now, if given the opportunity to choose another profession instead of law, would you, why, or why not?
Professor, no doubt. Now, what? Either a 7th grade teacher or a law professor. No, not a law professor, a college professor. Because I think I love teaching, and I love it when minds soak stuff up. And I think 7th grade is where the split occurs. You know what I mean? That's where you can either wait like mama said or join the party down the street. That's happening in middle school. And if you could catch a kid's imagination in middle school, I tell so many stories, but I can't help myself. I used to go to schools and talk to kids all the time. And there was this one class, 7th grade, this class was out of friggin' control. And I said, you know, I can't have this, the poor teacher. And I said, forget what I'm going to say. I want to know, what do you want to spend the rest of your life doing? And the guy said, I want to blow things up. I said, all right, let's talk demolition. Do you know what it takes to implode a building? I dare any one of you to give me something that you love to do, and I can't get you a good job from it. And they all tried to throw stuff at me. And at the end, they were listening to me. You know, like I took what they wanted and needed. And I didn't say, sit, listen, be good. I said, what do you want? What do you want? Let me tell you how to get it. And that made me feel fabulous. So 7th, 8th grade or college teaching.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Judge Toler. That concludes our question and answer portion of the lecture series. Now we're going to move here to the other portion. I'm going to go ahead and ask that Madam President Ladera Lee unmute herself. I'm asking you to unmute.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, again. And thank you so much for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. And so on behalf of the Miles Law School Black Law Student Association chapter, we would like to present this crystal gavel to Judge Toler, which we will be mailing to you. And it's just a token for you serving as our guest lecturer on today's date. And it reads, to the Black Law Student Association, Miles Law School, Striving to Balance, February 6, 2001. So thank you so much.
Very much. I appreciate it. I had a lovely afternoon. I enjoyed everything. I enjoyed your questions. I enjoyed the conversation. I hope you guys got something of value out of it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much again, Judge Toler. Now, just a brief, very brief, our brief acknowledgement of our advisor, attorney Tiffany A.G., the dean. His name slipped my mind just a quick. Dean Terry Price, and any faculty that might be on the line. Would anyone like to say anything at the present moment? Let's see here. Professor A.G., I'm going to go ahead and unmute you as well. You're unmuted.
I feel like there's a presumption that you knew I wanted to say something, but we're going to continue past that. Judge Toler, I just want to thank you, reiterate all of these thank yous, but there's a vibrancy about your personality that I really like. And I tend to encourage my students to find a way to marry their personality with their legal knowledge, because both can exist. Because people told me a lot of times there was no space for me, and I was like, you know, I am who I am, and the law can be what it is, and together we'll make that shake, for lack of a better phrase. And I think you are the epitome of that, and it comes through in your honesty and transparency. My students need to be in class next week, though. However, I'm going to put that out there. I also appreciate that thing about the deadlines. I'm basically just going to cite you all week next week because they had things due to me this week. So shameless plug for all the things that some of my students who are in here have due to me. But again, I truly thank you for taking this Saturday. I enjoyed this more than I thought I could. And it really encouraged, I think, all of us to be who we are. And those things can exist within whatever our process is. And in fact, that's part of our power is rooted in that. So our efforts should be not to untether that, but to find ways to manifest it. And then that's how we can constantly wield our power. So thank you again very much for spending that time with us.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. It was a tremendous event. John, you did a great job.
Thank you, Judge Toler. And again, thank you so much for just being with us this afternoon. We greatly appreciate it. And just thank you to everyone else that's on the call as well. Thank you for sharing this experience with us here at the Black Law Students Association here at Miles Law School. This Judge Toler was the guest speaker who is the inaugural guest speaker. So she is the first, and there will be other speakers following her, but hopefully they are as dynamic and as wonderful as she is. And we will be announcing that information as we receive confirmation from each of these speakers to each of you. So just be on the lookout for that information. And again, thank you so much, Judge Toler, and thank you to all of you for attending and being with us this afternoon.
Best of luck to everybody, especially the brother that's taking the bar. Good luck. Take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.